Well, I said I was going to go to beer after whiskey, but I've already finished one glass, so
Well, gotta get another one.
we're not starting off on the right foot.
Nope. No. Or we are starting off on the right
So to
foot.
say
Exactly,
you are going to
yeah.
have a great night.
I'm already recording, so I mean we're starting off good.
Oh my
Well,
God.
cheers.
Cheers.
Prime
Strawberry
time,
barley
baby. Prime time, baby. I built this house. This is my house. Y'all should know who built this house. Prime time did. Prime time did. Show me the green and watch me go. Prime time skills. Prime time skills. Y'all should know who built this house. Prime time did. Prime time did. Show me the green and watch me go. Prime time skills. Prime time
Welcome to Beer Fueled.
skills.
By the old WCW theme playing, you know by now that we were not copyright claimed last episode, so we got to keep it going. Try to get copyright claim for old WCW themes. I'm your host at Hop BFF. No, that's not my Twitter handle anymore.
Oh, it's
At
not.
Beer Fueled Hop. Yeah, for those that haven't been listening the couple weeks, I went down a rabbit hole drunk one night on old WCW themes, and nobody was better at barely changing a song and not getting copyright claimed than the Mouth of the South Jimmy Hart, who did all of it. That was primetime me, like Skipper, or up in here, up in here.
That sounds.
So-
It sounds like what a high school kid would put together for his talent show. And by high school, I mean by like middle school kid.
that
It's
beau-
like that's so great that quality was. I love it.
And that beautiful voice you hear is at Beer Fuel Theory. I'm struggling. I am out of the gate fumbling
At
here.
Beer
We
Fuel
take a
Theory.
week off, and I forget how to intro an episode. At Beer Fuel
God
Theory.
for bad headaches and everything else. God,
Bad head. Yeah, he had a headache. He blew me off twice last week, guys.
I did. For work and then migraines. It was like I'm the fucking worst co-host ever.
Yeah, pretty much. But I've accepted it. You see two other. If you're on YouTube, which you should be, you see two other wonderful faces down below us. Or, yeah, it's down below us on my screen,
right
and I'm the one
to
that's
left
broadcasting
somewhere.
it. So they're there somewhere. First and foremost, we have a fellow bourbon enthusiast, Bourbon Bowl mastermind, RotoLounge host, and hat model, Brad Starks.
That's right, RotoLounge. Got to rep the RotoLounge merch, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you having me back on.
We are more than happy to have you back on, and it's actually in a relatively short time frame given how long we normally go between guests. So, I mean, the last time he was on,
Skip will remind me here in about a second.
Yeah. The last time we had him on, we killed a guy. So we're gonna try to not do that this time. But
It might seem like a short time, but I'm just now sobering up from that episode. So
It's. I think Shane's finally waking up from that. Ugh.
oh man,
I
and
almost stopped drinking bourbon for like a day because of that episode.
I'll be joining him in bourbon here later on, and we've got co-host of the Devy Happy Hour, Devy writer for SI, which I didn't know. Congratulations on that, Skip Newton.
How you going? How you doing, guys? Man, it's great to be back. I love the show and excited, and I'm thrilled to have a bunch of bourbon experts, because that's what I'm drinking tonight.
So my goal by the end of this show is to have you join the Bourbon Bowl League, Skip.
Brad, go ahead and tell us about Bourbon Bowl, because
Yeah.
you've got 3 spots left in that thing, I think. So you're trying to
we
get up
got
to 412
3
leagues.
spots left. Well, I'll take you back real quick. So when I got on Twitter about 3 years ago, the goal was to kind of have a resource for people to kind of talk fantasy football. I feel like I have some good experience. I've won some tournaments, some elite tournaments and stuff like that. But I really got into bourbon when I moved to Ohio about 5 years ago. And I wanted to share that bourbon experience with other like-minded fantasy enthusiasts that also like bourbon. I joined Scott Fishbowl for the first time last year, and I thought it'd be cool to kind of give back to those that love bourbon, but they weren't kind of in the area that they could get into Scott Fishbowl. So I created the Bourbon Bowl, which basically kind of mimics some of Scott Fishbowl's scoring. For those that couldn't get in, they can kind of experience what it's like to be in the Scott Fishbowl. But then on the other side, the prize is actually a bottle of bourbon. First place and second place get a nice bottle of bourbon. Last year, the winners got Blanton, and second place got E.H. Taylor. And then the rest of the money goes to charity. I don't take any money, any profit. It was only a $20 buy-in last year. And the winners walked away with some Blanton's, some E.H. Taylor. And the winner also got an etched whiskey glass with the Bourbon Bowl logo on it. So I wanted to grow. I wanted to expand it. This year, we're going to fill 4 leagues of 12. And like you said, we have 3 more spots. And then we'll get it rolling.
That's right, Skip. You hear that? We have 3 more.
And Dan and I are both in it.
3 more slots.
Sounds like that number is going to drop to 2 pretty quickly.
and me and Hopper are both in the bowl. We're very excited to to be able to partake into this and redo my Scottish Bowl team.
Yeah, and this year, let me interject. This year, the Viridian Global, who does a lot of the gear for some of the best fantasy minds on Twitter, they're going to make a T-shirt for us. So your entry this year is going to be into the league, and you're going to get a Bourbon Bowl T-shirt to go along with it. And I think the prize this year, first place prize, likely is going to be Weller 107.
Oh, antique, yes.
And then not that one, obviously, not that
one.
Well, here's an almost empty bottle.
You get a half bottle of 107.
And then second place is likely going to get the green Weller. So I should have 4 bottles of each by the time Bourbon Bowl's over with. And if I don't, someone's going to get that last sip
massive benefit of living in Ohio.
If you don't, just let
fucking shelves everywhere.
If you don't, just let me know. I got some spares.
Yeah, same.
I got some spares lying around.
Hopper knows people too. He has connections.
That ain't no shit. Yeah, awesome. We're super excited for that. You mentioned Scott Fishbowl a lot. That's what we're here to talk about today because we are doing a real episode today. So we're gonna kind of post-mortem Scott Fishbowl a little bit. We're all part of it, so we're gonna go through kind of our drafts, how strategy played out going into it, how long that strategy lasted. I know for me it lasted until about pick 3, which, spoilers, was my first pick. We're gonna kind of go into what we thought we found for value, what we wish we had back, and really kind of wrap the whole thing up. We spent, it's our 3rd week out of 4. We didn't have a show last week because Dan was a little under the weather. Talking about Scott Fishbowl. We started kind of with, strategy, what we were planning on doing. We covered some of the mock drafts we were doing. So this is kind of the capper on how did that all play out. Before that, though, Skip, you got anything you want to hype in the intro before we cut into the meat and potatoes of this thing?
No, like you said, co-host a Devy Happy Hour, and I've got all my Devy and Dynasty rankings on SI.com, and write some articles, Devy articles for NFL Draft Bible. So that's what I've got going.
Who's the Devy? Who's the number 1 Devy player, Skip, right now? In your mind?
In Superflex, I think it's got to be Spencer Rattler. I mean, he's pretty much expected to be the first quarterback taken. Could go 101 next year. Tough to turn down, that kind of talent. In a 1 QB league, which I think in Devy would be pretty rare, but man, you can't pass on Bijan Robinson. He's so good. Even over the guys that are going to be eligible next year, they're solid prospects, and they might go the end of first round, but I don't think they're quite as good as Bijan.
No, Bijan's a goddamn monster.
Yeah, he's a beast. I love him.
What's fueling Beer Fueled?
Dan's happy to have another Devy guy to talk to. I have not taken the dive yet.
I got one question and I'm good now. We're good.
Awesome. What are you drinking?
I am drinking Revolution's Strawberry Straight Jacket. This is the bar I went to lunch today was able to get a barrel of it before Revolution has their release party tomorrow, which would be the 16th. And I was fortunate enough to be able to buy a can that was quote unquote not super overpriced. Spoiler though, it's fucking amazing. So more on my thoughts on that later.
Brad, what do you got?
Well, tonight, last episode I was drinking with you guys. I busted out some good stuff. The $75 Smoke Wagon.
Yeah, the Uncut Unfiltered, and I think I broke my bottle out too when we did that.
Tonight, I'm going with the $11.49.
Atta boy.
JTS Brown.
Let's go. JTS Brown and JW Dant are so freaking underrated. It's not even funny. They're so
and I got a
good.
cube.
Best way to do it. They're so good.
Yeah, it is for $11.49. You
Cannot beat it. Cannot beat it. Skip, what are you drinking?
I'm doing the Elijah Craig small batch. It's one of my favorites, so figured I'd pull that out. I've loved this for years now, and have no problem going back to one that I enjoy. I tried a new one last time I was on, and I'm actually hoping I can learn a little something from you guys about more bourbons that I should be trying, because I am loving them. The more I try, the more I love. So
we can definitely.
Brad just held up a damn good one if you can find it. If not, they kind of split where they do JTS Brown and JW Dant. It's really the same thing. So, either of those. Heaven Hill in there, 4-year, 100 proof bourbon because Baldwin Bond.
If you join the Bourbon Bowl, Skip, we have a chat with all the participants, and there's 5 of us now?
45 of us, and there's a ton of stuff flying around in there.
So if you're looking for bourbon information, jump in the league, jump in the chat. You'll learn a lot.
Good spot.
So there you go. When I join that league, I'll learn all I want to know. I love it.
There you go.
All right, and then I see the Old Elk. Is that weed? Is that the weeded bourbon or the straight?
That's the one I think you had me on.
Yeah, the weeded.
It was my going away present for leaving.
Atta boy. All right, so what I have is from Petrichor Brewing. Petrichor's a brewery here out of O'Fallon, Missouri. Michael, who runs the place, is also a teacher. Great guy. Held a wort share down here. Pretty cool concept of a homebrew competition where you go in, you get the same wort. So, and then see what you can do. Who can do kind of the best beer, pretty much using the same grain bill. So, really cool concept. Really awesome of him to put that on. Been meaning to get this on for a bit. I picked it up while I was out there. Hadn't got to yet. It's a chocolate Stark, which is basically a chocolate stout. So it's a sweet stout with French chocolate on it.
Holy shit, that's gonna be.
That sounds amazing.
It's delicious.
That's gonna be delicious.
Well, if you'd ever come see me instead of blowing me off, I have 3 more.
Oh, I'll be there soon. If anything, we'll see each other in 3 weeks.
I might be up there this week. Actually, this weekend. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and get into some of the Scott Fish Bowl stuff. So I kind of want to roundtable this to start and kind of go strategy. So I know majority of us were doing mock drafts leading up to this, kind of had an idea of how we wanted to go. So, Dan, we'll let you set the tone here. What were you trying to do? You and I both were intentionally drafting out of the 103 so we could share strategy.
Yep.
So, what were you trying to do going in? What were you trying to end up with in the first couple rounds to kick your draft off right?
So for me, it was I wanted to leave the draft with one of the elite tight ends. And I'd say elite, it's really top 5. The top 5 that should lead the entire position group in targets and actually have, significant enough targets to have the true benefit of the tight end premium scoring format. And then 2 high-end quarterbacks. And again, high-end is relative because it's very difficult to pull that off outside of the one guy that was able to get Josh Allen and Kyler Murray to start his draft. But we weren't so lucky. So those are, I think, my 2 bullet points I wanted to hit. Strategy-wise, I didn't really have one. It was try to get that to work out, and then we'll figure it out from there. Unfortunately, and I guess fortunately at the same time, as Skip will know, we had extremely good drafters in ours, and the strategies really made it difficult to to really pull off some of the moves I wanted to do. It also doesn't help that we also had 2 other listeners and fans of the show in that draft with us. So fantastic drafts all around, and it was a lot of fun. I don't know if we're gonna get the winner from our division. We're just a bit too good for each other. So
sorry, I'm responding to chat stuff. Brad, what were you trying to accomplish? I know that we had a lot of back and forth in the Bourbon Bowl chat about kind of what different people were doing there as well. So, what were you trying to do going in? What were some of the check boxes you were trying to hit strategy-wise?
Well, let me first give a shout out to my division, the Boss division, Bruce Springsteen. Those drafters love quarterbacks. So to be honest with you, last year, so this was my second year in Scott Fishbowl. Last year I did mocks. I picked my division. I picked my spot because I wanted Zeke Elliott. So I picked the 1-5 last year. Zeke got hurt. I think my second pick, I took Drew Brees. He got hurt. So this year going in, I said, you know what? I'm not even going to strategize. I'm not going to be nervous. I'm just going to show up for the draft. I know who I want, and we'll see what happens. And then just like they say, you have a plan till shit goes sideways. So I just went best player available. And as we go through the picks, I'll tell you my strategy changed several times. My first pick was sniped from me right off the bat. I picked that 1-4. I thought I could get Lamar Jackson at 1-4, but like I said, my league mates wanted quarterbacks. They went fast and they went quick. So, my strategy changed pretty much every round until I kind of had an idea what I was going to build.
Skip.
Yeah, like Dan said, I was in the Slipknot division with him. I picked that because I saw that he was in there, and we haven't been in the league together, so I said, "Screw it, man. Let's go for that."
Aw. He did it just so he could snipe you the whole time.
No, Darren, who's also in the chat, was also in that league. He's also in a division with us. So it's also sniping. Between him and Skip, dude, it was brutal.
You were right. It was a brutal draft because it just felt like there were no picks that really surprised me. Like, wow, what are they doing there? I mean, obviously there's going to be guys that are taken earlier than I would take them, but it wasn't like, 3 rounds earlier. So exactly. My strategy, sitting at the 105 was probably going to be a quarterback right off the bat. I did a couple of mocks and just seemed like McCaffrey always went in front of me. Kelsey, which Dan took at 103, was always gone. And, of course, Mahomes was gone. So I knew I'd be sitting there with either Josh Allen or Kyler Murray, and I'd be happy with either one of those two guys. So I was a little surprised when Kamara went 104. I would have expected him maybe go later in the first round. And I really thought long and hard about Dalvin Cook at 105. And I know it's a bit of a homer because I'm a Vikings fan like Dan, but man, when he's healthy, he's so good, and he could be a difference maker. And so that was really the only guy I was considering other than Kyler Murray, but I ended up just taking Murray because the rushing upside is so great. I mean, when I was in last year, I waited on quarterbacks, and the scoring system, which is similar to this year, was absolutely brutal, and it just killed me.
It's a punish if you wait too long. It can be brutal.
I had Carson Wentz, and he was just hot garbage. And
more on him later.
Other guy was, but and then coming around in the second round, I thought, all right, I'm going to get a good running back, because there should still be one there for sure that I really like. Ironically, in both of my mocks, Zeke Elliott made it all the way back to me in the second round at 208. I was not imagining that was going to happen here, and it really didn't fall the way I wanted. I mean, obviously, if either Kittle or Waller would have fallen to 208, I would have jumped all over one of them in this format, but no dice there. So I ended up, the strategy went out the window with my second pick. It was all running backs, quarterbacks, and tight ends before that. So I took Tyreek Hill, my wide receiver 1 in redraft, and just kind of, like Brad said, the strategy really goes out the window, and you just take best player available. And I thought I'm going to take a big high upside guy. So that's what I did there.
Yeah. I mean, going in for me after mocking, I was pretty convinced that I was going to end up with either Josh Allen or Dak Prescott at the 103 where I was picking. It seemed like Mahomes and Kelsey were pretty much going 101, 102. And I wasn't necessarily interested in going running back at the 103, given the tight end premium that's there in the way that quarterbacks are scored. So I was pretty sure I was going Allen or Prescott at the 103. And then Travis Kelce fell because Christian McCaffrey went 101. And, it was kind of there where I ended up, I guess, pivoting, because the way that I had done before was I wanted to go quarterback, and then typically running back to back to tight end, and for another quarterback. It didn't completely throw me off. It just ended up flipping some things on its head from how I I wanted to do it and kind of rearranging what I wanted to do with those first 4 picks. Wide receivers in this league are a bit devalued. So, I was always kind of planning to wait on, on some value wide receivers, and we'll get to those 2 in a minute. But, yeah, it was – I wanted to come in, out of my first 4 picks with 2 key quarterbacks, running back, and one of the top 5 tight ends. You could usually get, like, Kyle Pitts, Mark Andrews, or George Kittle in that 3-4 range. So I guess one of the perceived top 6 tight ends. But, just Kelsey's available, and I couldn't pivot off of it. And, from there, strategy pretty well held. It was more so picking near a turn other than that 3rd-round flip. It was more so just what position am I targeting, what's best available at at either position, and then who am I going to grab? So I would go into the turn usually with 2 picks in mind, or 2 positions in mind, and then look and see what was best available, what was most likely to make it through the next 3 picks, and really what depth was still available at the position as I was doing it. So, not necessarily what player do I want strategy, but what position do I want to draft here or what 2 positions do I want to draft here. So narrowing it down for the most part. So, given that, I guess the follow-up question, we kind of covered on how did you adjust. So, I mean, how do you feel overall? Like, let's do some assessment here. So, I mean, strengths, weaknesses, let's start there. I mean, where do you feel you ended up as far as the strength of your roster and maybe the weakness of your roster, given how you drafted? Why do you think that is?
I mean, it's just some of the runs. So, in that 3rd round, there's, the 4 picks before mine, and Skip is included in this, all went running backs that I was targeting with that 310 spot. And that was the first time I felt like, okay, this shit's going to get real. Hard pivot into my second QB, and then it was adjusting on the fly, and I never fully felt comfortable. I'm not going to jump the gun on one of the later questions we're going to ask, but waiting on receiver till the 7th round, while in theory felt like it was right, there may have been some questionable choices previously that kind of led to that. I don't hate my team. It's very much unique. I took my second tight end in Mark Andrews in the 5th round to help, play off of what the premium could lead to him. And just given what he was, only a couple years ago, there's still a lot of upside to him in that offense if he can, A, remain healthy, and B, kind of find his efficiency from the 2019 season. But a lot of massive upside. I feel like my team's either going to be top 2 or 3 in our division, Skip, or be bottom 2, 3. I got a lot of upside with a lot of risk that's added onto it. It's a draft. It's a team that I would take in this style, in this style of format. There's over 1,900 teams as a whole, and you have to try to be somewhat unique. You have to try to get the playoffs, obviously, but you have to have somewhat of a unique roster to help differentiate yourself from the other strong playoff teams, and taking some of these risks will get you there. Loading up my receivers with Jamar Chase and DJ Chark, Jalen Reagor, and then balancing it out with some decent, hopefully, floor and Jarvis Landry and Nelson Aguilar, and then just trying to find value when I can. Taking backup running backs that may not look good now, but if one injury happens, they're the guy, like Tony Pollard, Justin Jackson, and Ty Johnson. So, you have these ambiguous backfields that we're trying to figure out in July that we haven't figured out quite yet. So it doesn't look sexy, but there's definitely a lot of fun to it if everything hits.
Skip, where do you feel you're strong at? Where do you feel you're weak at?
I feel like I'm strongest at running back. After those first 2 picks, quarterback, wide receiver, then I went 3 straight rate running backs. Gibson, Dobbins, and Gaskin. Wanted to be strong there, obviously at the expense of getting my second quarterback, early like Dan did, which I thought was a really good pivot by him, to take Stafford there, and then around the turn you ended up getting a good running back coming back, and Edwards-Helaire. I think that was a nice move. But I like the running backs. I got Henderson later. I think still going to get some chance there in LA, and plus if anything happens to Akers, he could really be a home run. And then after that, finishing off running backs was all guys, just throwing darts at rookies that late round rookies that no one's really excited about, but you never know. I mean, if one of these guys hits, a Gainwell, a Javian Hawkins, Herbert, they're in Chicago, it's worth a shot. Where I'm weak is where I took, I waited, and that, quarterback, my second quarterback taken was Trey Lance, who, I mean, he might not even play. And then I did grab Goff later. So that's a risk that I was willing to take. And then at tight end, one of my biggest decisions I thought was in the fourth round. I was driving home from my dad's cabin and was actually listening. This was Tuesday morning. I'm listening to the last couple hours of the Podathon, and I had talked myself into, all right, if TJ Hawkinson gets back to me at the 405, I'm going to grab him, because I thought this is the guy that of all the tight ends left, because he would have been tight end 5, because Noah Fant went in the third round.
No,
Kyle Pitts went in the third round. I thought this is the one guy who could make that leap up into that top tier of tight ends, because he could get just a ton of targets in Detroit. And so I was locked in on him for an hour and just, kind of waiting as the picks are coming in, paying attention every once in a while on my phone. And then I finally get to my destination where I can really, I'm on the clock. I'm going to make my pick. Just do one more check. And I'm like, J.K. Dobbins is there. I didn't even think about Dobbins. And so I ended up going Dobbins, knowing that there was zero chance Hawkinson would come back. And I ended up getting Noah Fant in round 8, and grabbed Gesicki later. But, I don't think the likelihood of those guys being a whole lot better than they were last year is that good. I mean, Miami brought in, a couple of guys to take targets away. In Denver, if Sutton comes back healthy, which I really wanted to get Sutton and waited too long on him, but you're Sutton and Judy are going to be top 2 in Denver. So, I think if you want a top tight end, he's got to be top 2 on his team in targets. And I just don't think the likelihood of my two guys is there. So I think they're just going to be, tight ends, 7, 8, 9, 10, somewhere in that range, where they're not going to make a difference. They'll give you a decent floor, but the ceiling isn't great like the ones that we've talked about.
Dan, I already went to you. Brad.
Yeah, Brad.
Brad, you're right. Skip mentioned he liked his
hey.
running back cores. I know where you're going here, because I saw your roster and
His team is fun.
loaded at running
Before I
back.
get started, though, let me tell you, I'm already on my second glass, so I'm on pace to finish a whole bottle tonight.
Attaboy.
So I take Shane in the Twitter post. I'm hoping he jumps in.
Oh, did you?
Reminds himself of the night that we almost killed him.
You tell him to
Shane?
DM.
Oh, okay.
I mean, if he wants to DM you and get an invite to this,
Oh
he's
my
more
god,
than
I
welcome.
totally bring him out if he wants to jump in.
I'm gonna pour one for Shane.
pour one out for the homie. I'll get there. I'm about halfway through this guy.
I'm gonna
There you
message
go.
him.
Well, I will tell you that I learned last year that if you do a mock draft, it just throws your mind off, because when you get into a group of 12 guys or 12 girls and guys, whatever they believe is going to be how your draft transpires. So it doesn't matter how many mocks that you do. I mean, you guys might have done some mocks. Did any of them even come close to where players were being drafted?
Oh
Yeah.
God, no.
Oh, actually, for me, yes. Or maybe it was just the way that I was drafting. But yeah, I ended up with some key guys, not so much at running back, but at wide receiver and tight end. I ended up with some key guys, especially in the later rounds, that I didn't, that I ended up with in all 3 of the mock drafts that I did as well. So, I mean, maybe it's just because of how I was drafting, But there were definitely a couple things that played out for me that I was like, okay, and it's never going to go exactly that way, but I was like, all right, Cortland Sutton. Skip just mentioned him. I'm like, that's a guy I know that if I wait on wide receiver, I can get that has the potential to be a true one. I know that I can wait until round 4 or 5 on tight end and still land with somebody I'm comfortable with. That's never going to go exact. I know that if I believe in one and taking as my third quarterback, one of the 3 of Drew Lock, Zach Wilson, or Sam Darnold, that I can get them down in the double-digit rounds. So there are certain things and certain players that I know I like where I'm really watching what range do I feel comfortable I can get them in, and that did play out, and I think it wasn't exact, but that played out well enough to where it did help me. And I think that might be more about how I was drafting than about how everyone else is drafting. But that was kind of the benefit that I saw in it. You get thrown off a little bit in the early rounds, but just kind of knowing where other guys, especially doing multiple, where these other groups of guys that are also in at Scott Fish are evaluating some of these players, I kind of know when I got to go and who's going to be available that I like and don't like at a certain round. So, but again, it's not just like I'm not zoning in on one position. I'm not zoning in on one guy. It's more of a tier of guys that I know where they're going to fall, and like this is a tier I'm comfortable with.
Yeah, when I went into the Scott Fish Bowl and I didn't do any mocks and I really tried to put it out of my mind until the day before the draft, there's a few guys I really wanted based on the scoring. I wanted Lamar Jackson. Again, I picked 1-4, so I wanted Lamar Jackson. I was like, I'm going to get Lamar 1-4.
I'm shocked you didn't get him there, man. He slipped.
Right.
He was mid to late in almost every draft that I saw. I'm surprised he didn't fall to you.
Yeah, and exactly. Leagues are different. So I wanted Lamar. On the way back, I wanted Zeke. Zeke, he did good for me well last year, and then when Dak got hurt, he kind of went down, but I think he's going to have a bounce-back season. Some later picks, I wanted to get T.J. Hawkinson, like Skip mentioned. This might be a hot take, but I think the floor for T.J. Hawkinson is tight end 4, and I think the ceiling for him this year is tight end 1. So I really wanted to target him in this type of format with a tight end premium. I
think Hawk
Judy
outscores Kittle. I think Hawk will outscore Kittle in Scott Fish format. I do.
Yeah. Like Chris, you mentioned you like Sutton. I really like Judy this season.
Yep.
And then later in drafts, I wanted Gio Bernard, and that's a sleeper for the year. But to answer your question, what's my strengths? And obviously, I went 0 quarterback strategy because the way my league was going, I went 3 straight running backs in my draft. So obviously, strength is running back to me, and obviously weakness is quarterback. I went with 4 dart throws, and I'm hoping that one hits because even in Superflex, you don't necessarily need to have both quarterbacks. I took a kicker late that has a really good post or like late season schedule. So if he can get me 15 to 17 points, I might be starting a Superflex kicker late in the season. So I just wanted to hit on one quarterback. There you go. Kickers matter. So my strength is running back, and the reason for it is because Lamar Jackson went number 2, and I love the fantasy football community. But one thing that I've noticed, I've been playing this game for a long time, 20 years plus. The fantasy football community is a "what have you done for me lately" group.
Very
and
much.
I like to take advantage of that. Last year, the majority of the sharp players asked Scott Fishbowl for the 101 so they could select Christian McCaffrey. You saw it across the board. Most leagues, Christian McCaffrey was going 101. The games that he played, he did well in the scoring. I believe he was 30 points per game in the scoring before he got injured. He falls off. People are chasing last year's points. They're chasing Mahomes. They're chasing Josh Allen, who was a 5th-round pick last year. They're chasing Justin Herbert, who was a 9th-round pick last year. So in my league, it went Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Josh Allen. I never thought that Christian McCaffrey would fall to 4.
That's nuts, man.
That's awesome.
I would have loved to have, I didn't have a choice.
That's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I mean, that's nuts.
And so I went with Christian McCaffrey at the 4th pick. I didn't think it was going to happen. And then on the way back, I had some quarterbacks that I wanted to take, and they all went. All the quarterbacks that I wanted went, so I didn't want to reach on a certain quarterback.
Who'd your dart
hindsight, like you mentioned, Chris, we can look at now.
Mm-hmm.
There was an opportunity that I possibly could have stacked Tannehill with A.J. Brown with my second and third pick. I didn't know it was going to fall like that. But I wanted Zeke with my second pick. He went 2 picks before. But I went with Joe Mixon in the second round. So I went running back. And then when it came back to the third round, I got the guy Skip mentioned. I got Cam Akers. I think the ceiling is enormous for Cam Akers. So, I got 3 running backs to start from day one, and hopefully I got a quarterback that'll hit.
Who'd you end up with your dart throws at quarterback, B?
Well,
I'm here for it. Trust me.
I'm not as much, but that's
all right. So
who were they?
This is gonna go either way. I really think that Sam Darnold's gonna have a
boy.
Oh boy.
I really think he's gonna have a breakout season. So I wanted him. I even kind of reached a little early on him. I think I grabbed him in the 4th or 5th round. I got T.J. Hawkinson with my 4th pick, and then I think I got Sam Darnold with my 5th pick. I also threw a dart at who else did I throw a dart at?
Wentz in the 8th round. I'm looking at your team now.
That
is your best pick.
Yes, I got
Wentz in the 8th round. Wentz and Darnold should have been flipped, given the way they went in most leagues. They should have been flipped.
Wentz in the 8th. It's awesome though.
Yeah.
I got Carson Wentz, and then later in the draft, I went with Jimmy Garoppolo because the way I look at it, and people have their opinions. Trey Lance is 21 years old, right? The San Francisco 49ers are a Super Bowl contender. Are they going to put that at the hands of a rookie quarterback that's played 1 year of college football? I don't think so. I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm going with Jimmy G in case they decide to, let Jimmy G ride it, try to get him to a Super Bowl. I think no matter what happens next year, Trey Lance starts. This year, I don't know. And then finally, with my last pick, I think we talked on our last podcast about Jameis Winston.
We did.
I'm a Buccaneer season ticket holder, so I know, or I was. I know what Jameis Winston is, so I'm betting that Jameis Winston is Jameis Winston, and I drafted Taysom Hill because he started last year. He averaged 20 fantasy points per game. So if Jameis is Jameis and becomes a starter, it's not good for the Saints. The Saints might not be a very good franchise, but it's going to be good for fantasy football. So
can I cut his
those
mic?
are my 4 dart throws, and I'm hoping at least one sticks.
I mean, he took your guy in Darnold.
He did one of my guys. We'll get to that.
I can't get on the Darnold train because of this scoring format. Darnold in regular, he's a fine dart throw, but with the amount of negatives or not negative, but the amount of penalty to his inefficiency of who Darnold is right now, it's such a. There's not enough ceiling to me.
Well, and where I like Darnold is, I mean, kind of and it's no different than what he did. It was just different order. Is you pair him with a guy like Wentz, and you pair him with a couple dart throws, and you hope that 1 or 2 of them hit, or that they're at least streamable.
Wentz,
Darnold's still young.
I can make a case for Sam Darnold. I can definitely make a case for Sam Darnold.
I want to hear your case for Sam Darnold. Talk me into.
All right, Brad, you go first, and then I'm going to piggyback you.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So a few things that I think about in regards to Sam Darnold. So he's going to a Joe Brady offense, right? I've researched Joe Brady. I researched LSU. Joe Brady unlocked Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow was no elite quarterback in college. He was basically a career backup. Joe Brady catered the offense around Joe Burrow. He spread it out. He let Joe Burrow read the defense. Now, is that going to fix Sam Darnold? I don't know. But I do know that last year, Teddy Bridgewater had a career season with Joe Brady. And in his scoring, I believe Teddy Bridgewater was like a top 12 quarterback in his scoring. Now,
he's also super safe.
Yes, he's much more efficient than Sam Darnold. However, Teddy Bridgewater didn't have Christian McCaffrey. Sam Darnold's going to have Christian McCaffrey, who he's going to be able to dump the ball off to. They're going to have DJ Moore. He also has Robbie Anderson, who he had in New York. And they had a really good rapport in New York. Sam Darnold's only 23 years old. The Panthers passed on a franchise quarterback because they believe in him. And when you take him in the 5th round to pair with, 3 stud running backs and a tight end, to me, it was a really easy decision. I think he could have a career season. Is he going to be a top 5 quarterback? I don't think so. Could he be a top 12, a QB1? I think he could have that type season this year.
And like I said, I'm going to piggyback on this. So Sam Darnold, first off, he's been in New York with a crap offensive line. I'll get to that more in a moment. Crap weapons around him. Not great coach. Like, if there's been a young player with a ton of talent that needed to be molded. That landed in a worse situation to start their career than what Sam Darnold did. I would be damn near shocked for everything from coaching staff to protection to the weapons that he was given to the fact that he somehow went out and contracted mono. I mean, there was just a ton that went wrong. So, when you look at, and under the bright lights and scrutiny of New York. So you look at a team that needs, a guy that needs a fresh start that has a ton of talent. Sam Darnold fits that. He goes to a place where, while the Panthers' offensive line isn't great, it's a huge upgrade over the Jets. Sam Darnold was 6th in clean pocket completion percentage. So, you're going to get an efficiency boost just from the fact that he's going to have better protection. And then you give him DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson and Christian McCaffrey. Things that he did not have throughout his entire career in New York. So you give the guy weapons, including one of the best checkdown weapons in the game in CMC. And you put him in a Joe Brady offense. I think that there's definitely going to be net gains. Now, he's not going to take a jump like Josh Allen did. He's not gonna jump up to be elite. But at the area where you're taking him along with a guy like Carson Wentz, you're hoping that maybe they can both be in that upper teen streamer range by the end of the season, like we talked about, Dan. And I think that's perfectly within the realm of possibility, given just the overall situational improvement that Sam Darnold's in.
Yeah, and I'm going to rotate. I'm going to rotate him. I don't know if I'm going to run with Sam Darnold every game, especially against the Bucs. I mean, there's certain games I'm going to bench him, but 2 years ago, down the playoff stretch, he was good in New York. There were some games he had 4 touchdowns. He had a rushing touchdown. I mean, he has shown the talent in New York, and his best player was Robbie Anderson. He had a 5'8" Jamison Crowder. Now he's got Robbie Anderson again, but he's also got DJ Moore, like you said, Chris, and Christian McCaffrey.
And they bring in Terrace Marshall.
Yeah, I mean, so
people forget about him.
He's not. I don't think he's not going to be a Josh Allen. He's not going to be a Patrick Mahomes. But is he going to have some really good games? I think he is, and hopefully I can hit those and miss the ones that if he sees ghosts, I'll miss those games. And
don't forget about his secret weapon, Dan. Dan Arnold is on that team.
Thank you. I've been waiting to chime in about Dan Arnold.
Oh my God. Okay. So all right, let's get off the Darnold fucking cockfest a little bit. Jesus Christ.
Hey, I have to believe because that's what I invested in.
I have no issue with Darnold. I think there is a good chance that he improves. The problem is the scoring. It's the fact that it's -4 for interceptions, -6 for pick sixes. It's -1s for sacks taken, and it's a full point for incompletions.
Well, that's where the improved offensive line helps.
Well, sure, and you're right. The protection rate for Teddy was 8th, and then he had a 34% or a 34th in protection rate with the Jets. It's also pace of play. We talk about Joe Brady being this great mind, and 21st. Teddy was 21st in the league in pace of play.
Teddy does so much. Teddy does so much at the freaking line, though, because he's cerebral. Yeah. You just need somebody that's going to be dumb enough to go up there and hug it. By the way, Sam Darnold protection rate 37th. if we're talking
no. Just so that I said, it should improve.
Yeah.
So hopefully less sacks. But this is a guy who's been a 2.5+ turnover rate for majority of his career, dating back to college. So you have to weigh the negatives to the positives. You have a slow-paced offense that's not going to try to do as much because Darnold hasn't proved that he can be that highly efficient passer. He may improve. He absolutely may improve. I'm not betting on him as a weekly streamer with that trust. It's the negatives from the scoring is what makes me pause. Normal leagues with normal scoring, throw him out there. It's fine. That I don't give a shit. But when there's a lot of negative to a guy who's not been very efficient, dating back to college, I'm a lot more hesitant.
I've loved people with a lot worse turnover rate.
You are the only guy that I know that loved Josh Allen the way that you did, and thank God you hate Daniel Jones as much as I do because I do not want to see another Josh Allen.
Oh no.
Somehow pop up in this league. I love Josh Allen.
Skip, anything on Sam Darnold before I move on to my strengths and weaknesses here?
No, I don't want to keep the circle jerk on Sam Darnold here, but the last thing is that the Jets relied on Sam Darnold. The Panthers aren't going to rely on Sam Darnold. They're going to lean on Christian McCaffrey.
Let's hope so.
So, he could become more efficient in that offense. So, fingers are crossed. I went 3 straight running backs. So
then it's low ceiling. But no, let's go on. Let's move on from this Brian Hoyer-esque.
Oh, hold on. Skip
Darnold.
didn't get to give his opinion, damn it.
Skip, how do you feel about Sam Darnold?
I'd probably lean more towards you, Dan, on the concern that he.
Oh, who the hell asked you anyway?
So drastically in this scoring system. It's the scoring system that has me concerned. But that said, I think the biggest thing going for him, other than just the complete total change of scenery is Christian McCaffrey, right? I mean, the easiest dump off. I mean, those are such simple points. Again, the efficiency matters in the Scott Fish Bowl, and if he can just keep dumping it off to McCaffrey, then that will help and should at least make him more efficient when it comes to
those 15 points are going to look really good when McCaffrey gets 20 targets 20 targets each game.
Hey, damn it! I got a kicker to make up the other 15.
Fucking kickers,
another
man.
thing that might be in my favor, Dan, is I try to put some stacks together, right? So Sam,
I
Darnold
love that.
with
Yeah,
McCaffrey.
I saw that. I did. Yep, I did see that. No,
So
I like
I
that.
basically have the offense secured. A touchdown is either going to be a pass from Darnold or a score from McCaffrey, barring injury. So that's another angle that I had with McCaffrey. It made it a much easier decision to go with that and kind of
about to buy Joe
offense.
Brady a nice bottle of bourbon if he somehow pulls off Sam Darnold. So
Yeah. Well,
All
he
right,
might
Hop.
be in the Bourbon Bowl. I'm gonna give him. I'm gonna email him.
that's right. That's right. All right, Hopper. Let's hear about your team, buddy.
All right, so strengths and weaknesses, which really looking at this, strength-wise, it ended up being my running backs. Tight end coming up close second. I'm actually going to weirdly cover all 4 position groups here. So running back-wise, I hadn't gone running back. I had to like round 4 or 5 in any of my mock drafts, and this is where I pivoted because I got to round 3, and Aaron Jones is still sitting there staring at me at the 310. So I'm going to jump at Aaron Jones, and then, I ended up being able to pair him with Josh Jacobs, and, the opinion on those guys is massively different, but the separation on those guys is only like 25 points. So I ended up pairing an Aaron Jones with a Josh Jacobs. Going on a little bit later, ended up getting Kareem Hunt, Damian Harris to be my 3 and 4. Just a lot deeper than I ever anticipated that I would be at running back. Damian Harris, especially if McCorkle takes over, is a lot of people anticipate him to do in that New England offense, is set for an upward swing. And Kareem Hunt was damn near as good as Nick Chubb down the stretch last year. But going at a lot cheaper of a value. And then wrapped it up with really 2 late round guys that have upside in different ways. So, Brad, you mentioned it earlier. What have you done for me lately? One of the big what have you done for me lately guys that has always been efficient that I have actually kind of a record of hating on until now because I finally found an ADP that I like him at is Rashad Penny. And, I was able to get Rashad Penny very, very late in this, like round 17 in this draft, I was able to get Rashad Penny. We know that Seattle runs more than damn near any team in the league. Chris Carson can get banged up, but when Penny was healthy, they would rotate him around too. So it's a gamble on him staying healthy, but it's a gamble that I'm willing to take in the 17th round for as efficient as he's proven he can be. And then the other guy that I ended up getting way late, I want to say he was my round 21 pick, was Mark Ingram down there in Houston. And Houston's going to be terrible, and David Johnson was terrible, but because David Johnson was terrible, give me the guy that could potentially end up in his backup on an offense that's a cluster, and let's just see what happens when it's with a 21st round pick out of 22. So
that's like the best pick for those, is those backfields that could shake up.
Mm-hmm.
I got it
from now
I got
to
him
the
in
start of the
round
season.
21 too.
Yeah.
21.
So, I mean, that's just a thing where I felt like I got really, really good value out of the running back position. I got Damian Harris in round 9, Kareem Hunt in round 8. That was kind of a pivot for me because I wasn't going to go running back there. Josh Jacobs in round 5. So, I was totally on board. Like, I felt like I got value on Jacobs and Aaron Jones, and that kind of set me up a lot better at running back than I was anticipating being. As far as positions I feel like I'm weak at, it's kind of a toss-up between wide receiver and quarterback. Quarterback, I didn't get my first-round guy, so I ended up going Tom Brady in the second, who I really like in this scoring format. And then nobody that I really wanted fell to me in round 4 or 5. There's a big run on quarterbacks in the middle there. So I ended up with Carson Wentz in round 4. So I'm in the same boat as you, Brad. Just like I said, Darnold and Wentz flipped.
You guys are like best friends now.
Because
I swear, like you guys all love the same players.
My goal to get to, except Jameis Winston. My goal
If
to
Dan's ever sick, just give me a call. I'll be a co-host.
Yeah, I will next time. My goal to my goal then was to pivot and get, you want to come out with 4 quarterbacks. My goal was to make quarterback 3 and 4 2 of Zach Wilson, Sam Darnold, Drew Lock. I wanted to get 2 of those 3 in the double-digit rounds in order to just have those dart throws. I like the upside in Darnold. Everyone seems to like Fant, Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, but you don't like the quarterback. How does that work out? So, give me Drew Lock.
I love Teddy Bridgewater. What are you talking
Give
about?
me Drew Lock as a dart throw, because it's not going to be Teddy, at least not at the start. It might be by the end of the season. Then, Zach Wilson, rookie, doesn't have any competition as a starter. Jets are going to have to throw 600-plus times. Might be inefficient, but if he's, shows anything, then he's worth it in that regard as well. You stream him, you can play with that. That didn't pan out. There ended up being a run on the guys that I wanted before I picked, so I ended up catching Drew Lock because he's the one that nobody wanted, which I'm okay with, but because I only got one of them, that led to a McCorkle Jones pick. So
I love your Mac Jones pick, dude.
The Mac Jones pick actually wasn't bad from where I got him at because it was late enough. And I do figure that he's going to start, and if he does, then, awesome. And if he doesn't, it's kind of the perfect thing where even if Mac Jones doesn't start, he's going to take over midseason, and even if Drew Lock does start, he's probably going to lose it midseason. So I just covered both sides of it. So
it's like you wish that Drew Lock can become the next, the next Josh Allen, but that,
and
at least that he's better than Daniel Jones.
I'd consider my
Might be
receiver.
the next Chad Kelly.
Oh, buddy,
Who we also love.
I love Chad Kelly.
We love Chad Kelly.
The other thing here is that my wide receivers. I love the DJ Moore Cortland Sutton start. That was awesome for going late round wide receiver to get DJ Moore, and then followed up on the back end of that with Cortland Sutton, who I believe was going to come back strong off that ACL injury and retake his spot as the number 1 in Denver. And because of that, it's going to elevate Jerry Jeudy as well, because he's going to get to play a more natural kind of not number 1 receiver role, not draw top coverage, and be okay in that regard. But anyway, Cortland Sutton, DJ Moore, then Nelson Aguilar is a floor guy who Dan and I both like because we think he's going to be the top
He's
receiver
number
on
one
the
guy
Patriots.
there. He's getting
and
harder
just get-
targets plus this year.
and
Easily.
just get targets. But then from there, I wish I had stacked up a little bit more youth after those guys. After Moore, Sutton, Aguilar, ended up going T.Y. Hilton, Alan Lazard, Kadarius Toney. And the Kadarius Toney pick is kind of the weekly boom pick. You want to see how they use him and if they can utilize him right. He's not going to be a 1. They spent too much draft capital on him, but they did spend high draft capital on him, so I expect them to try to get him involved. And if they do it in the right way, then he's a guy that could absolutely give you some blow-up weeks that you throw in there as just a guy that could go off or get you nothing. It's really just going to depend. He's going to be a gadget guy that can be explosive, and I was okay with taking that throw there just to have some youth here. Alan Lazard, I don't need to go over my love for him anymore, but there's a lot up in the air in Green Bay. And T.Y. Hilton, the gamble there is just that, getting a quarterback that, for his fault, still has an arm, unlike Phillip Rivers. You hope that there's a little bit left in the tank there. But I just wish that I had stacked a little bit more youth there and that I had, at least a third wide receiver kind of in the same range as is Moore and Sutton, if not a tier down. I feel like the drop-off from those two in that group is just a little larger than I'd want it to be.
I love Sutton. There's my one concern is when Denver moves on from Locke to Teddy and the vast differences of quarterbacks that they are, where Locke is a, throw it deep and pray, which fits great for Cortland Sutton.
And Sutton's the reason Locke's going to keep his job.
Yeah, well, he might be the reason why he keeps his job long enough. It's when Teddy takes over. I feel like that's when Judy will be unlocked because Judy's the best route runner on that offense, I think, by a large mile. And his ability to get open with ease is there. And I think we'll see just the misuse of Sutton. He's just not, I still love Sutton as a player. I'll buy him in Dynasty, especially after this year, because I don't expect Teddy to be the starter there after the season. It's Teddy doesn't fit well for a receiver style like Sutton and how they use him in that offense. He's been value, which has been great. That's just my one concern with him, and then how that Denver offense could shift and change when they move on from Drew Lock to Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah, I think I'm betting that, and I'm gonna have to go opposite of you, Chris. I'm betting that Teddy takes over that starting role just because he's a game manager. I think Denver, the coach wants to have a smash mouth run offense with a good defense. And I think when they go to the air, I think Teddy's going to rely on getting the ball to Jerry Jeudy. And, so I'm betting on that. But, or I'm hoping Aaron Rodgers goes there and just kind of unlocks all the
That would be fucking great for Sutton, man. You put Rodgers on that.
He'll unlock them all. It doesn't matter.
He's out of the NFC North, which would be great for the three of us. And he can, fully unlock Sutton and make him potentially.
But the thing is, Sutton's quarterback proof. So Sutton can have any quarterback and he can be a star. And I do love Sutton. I do love him absolutely. I don't know what he's going to be like first year off the ACL. I just have a much deeper love for Jerry Jeudy. I just think he's, like you mentioned, Dan.
He fits so well with Bridgewater.
Runner.
Yeah, he just fits so well with who he is now as a quarterback. Where it's if they want him to be a game manager, which means he won't take as many shots downfield, and Jeudy, in my opinion, should likely be disposed as that, within that flanker role. Let him run routes in the short to intermediate range, and have him just feast on that when he's not checking the ball down to either Javonte or Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, and I think that Jeudy can be a DJ Moore type player that he had last season. Skip, what do you think about Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton? Skip,
they're great wide receivers. I'm concerned about the quarterback situation. I mean, you guys have pretty much flushed that out. I think Locke's going to be the starter to begin with because they want him to be the guy. He probably has a little bit of higher upside, but I think he's going to be on a short leash because you know what you're getting with Teddy, and he can at least be, more of a game manager, like Dan said, and I think they're going to go that route. If they feel like the rest of their team is good enough to win, then and they can get in the playoffs, then Teddy can help them do that because he won't lose the game for them.
He ain't gonna win it either.
They're in a tough division, so they might.
They're not making the playoffs this year. There's no way.
Right. So you might as well let Locke play it out.
Yeah.
By the way,
man, bring back Chad Kelly.
It'd be good competition. There's a comment in the chat that said that's the most sound Drew Lock take I've heard, and I'm assuming they're talking about me, not you.
Well, I think the whole conversation was.
Yeah.
You have massive love for Drew Lock, but you're very realistic about his future.
Right.
Even into this season. So.
Right. All right. Real quick before we get into some reviews, and then I'm going to switch to bourbon, and we're going to read some RotoWorld, which is my favorite thing to do.
We love reading RotoWorld.
The way we've been doing it now, it's pretty friggin' fun. All right. Round table, Brad, we'll start with you. Favorite value of your draft, and pick you what you could have back.
Oh, I didn't get the last question. Favorite value? I'd have to look at my draft, but I got Gio Bernard late. Last year, I was on the Ronald Jones train before Leonard Fournette was signed. I thought Ronald Jones was going to be a RB1 in Tampa. Then they signed Leonard Fournette. If the rumors were true, they were going to cut Leonard Fournette before Rojo got COVID, so they kept him. He had his best games in the playoffs. I don't think he has a great work ethic. Tom Brady hand-selected Gio Bernard over James White. It's not Keyshawn Vaughn. I think it's going to be Gio Bernard. I think he's going to be at every week flex, and I can look what round, but I got him super late. I think I'm going to put him in my flex and just let him sit there all season.
And what's one pick you wish you could have back? What's one, knowing what you know now after the draft, what's one pick that you wish you would change? Or what's one pick you wish you could change?
Okay, so everything went well. I think I'm happy with all my picks. Like I mentioned earlier, the one thing that I could second guess was with my second, third pick, I could have had a Tannehill, AJ Brown stack. So with the quarterback scoring, I think Tannehill's going to have a really good season. So at the end of the season, I'm going to look and see who was a better group of picks. Was it Tannehill, AJ Brown, or I went with Mixon and Akers? So that's the only second guessing that I had through the whole draft.
Skip.
You know, I'm going to start with the second guessing one, and I think mine is at 708. I took Brandon Ayuk, who I love. I love Ayuk in San Francisco. I think he has an incredibly high ceiling, but I think I let my dynasty influence my decision. You know, I'm so used to being in that mode, and Sutton went after him. And I was hoping to get him coming back around, and he didn't make it.
You wouldn't have got him after that. I would have taken him.
Yeah, well, you took Jamar Chase over Sutton. I noticed that.
I would have took it Sutton.
Yeah,
with the next pick.
And that's the one
had it happen
where I think, you know, he's in a better position to be a wide receiver one this year. You know, he could. There's a really high likelihood that he leads his team in targets, and we don't know that about Ayuk yet. I mean, if Kittle is healthy all season long, then the odds are probably better that Kittle leads his team in targets. So I think that's the one that I'm just, you know, maybe I reached on that. The best value, you know, I really have a strong feeling about Rondale Moore in Arizona, and I think they're going to find a way to get him the ball, and he's going to get a lot of points. And I think he can get a lot of first downs in this system too. So getting him in around 14, especially when I've got Kyler Murray, I like the upside there. I think there's a narrative where Rondale Moore has a big season. It's a chance. I really focused going into this on swinging for upside, because I think the only way you win a tournament like this is you got to have guys, you know, with upside, which is why I took Gibson and Dobbins and Trey Lance, you know, early. Like if Trey Lance does take over at any point, I mean, the rushing upside alone is going to make him a valuable asset. So that's where I see the value there is. And then, you know, who knows, maybe one of those rookie running backs I took late, you know, if I get lucky and, you know, and Kenny Gainwell ends up getting a lot of action in Philly, that could be
I'd be so happy if that happened. You know, I'm surprised you passed on Bateman for Rondale Moore. You know, I'm looking back at our draft board. I thought for sure you'd be the one taking Bateman where you took Rondale Moore.
You know, I love him. I mean, I'm here wearing a University of Minnesota shirt, but man, I just don't trust the volume in that Baltimore offense. I mean, that's awfully risky. I just, you know, hopefully I'm wrong. I mean, but man, I can see it where he just doesn't get the targets to get anything.
Yeah, I'm praying. I have been pounding the table to not ever fade. I know Brad's with me, and I know Hopper's with me, not to pound the table to fade Bateman. I've crafted a narrative that I've stuck onto of Baltimore, recognizing that they know how to get to the playoffs, but they need to figure out how to get over the Chiefs, the Bills, and the Titans that hump to get there. Tennessee added Julio Jones because they needed to be more efficient as a passing offense and to likely become a little more up-tempo. And I'm hoping Baltimore, when they overhauled the receiving core, did the same thing where you can't trust Jackson to run as much as he did and to not get hurt given his frame. So you have to go all in on him improving as a passer. Obviously, he's not great. He's barely good. But you have to hope that the guys they brought in, which fit to where you can see his efficiency improvement increase from, would help the offense as a whole. So I'm there with you guys on why to fade him. I can't for the life of me fade Rashad Bateman. So nope. It's Hopper. Hopper, what are you moving on to now?
Got a Four Roses single barrel store pick. This one's 10 years old. OESK recipe from Total Wine. So Four Roses, 10 recipes when you get the single barrel store picks. Choose from 10 different. That'll give you a variety of profiles. So the OESK, I'm cheating because I don't remember this, is more of the spicy full body type. But this is the single barrel strength store pick. One of 3 I have on my shelf.
What's the proof on it? That's a what, like 100?
This one is 58.2 alcohol by volume, so 116.
Nice. That'll put some hair in your chest.
Dan, I'm with you on the Lamar Jackson. I think that Baltimore needs to see if they can unlock the passing, because they're not going to make it all the way unless they can have a passing offense. And 2 years ago, he was a high efficient. I think he had 36 touchdowns. Yeah. And I know he's negotiating his own contract. And I don't know if this is a hot take. I'm sure it is, because no one expects Lamar Jackson to leave Baltimore. But if they push contract talks off the next season and he doesn't take a step as a passer, I would not be surprised if they look in another direction. I think they know they have a good defense. They need to be able to throw the football.
They won't be. I mean, like they won't finish worse enough to have a chance to replace. Like that's the problem that like a team like Denver's in, right? They have a team good enough right now to always be in contention for at least most of the season, but not a good enough quarterback to get over the hump, but never a worse enough record to
take it from a Bears fan. That's a great way to get a mid-round draft pick.
Great, exactly, and thank God the Giants, the Panthers, and the Broncos all fucked up and let Justin Fields slip to them, and that's where Baltimore would likely lead in. Lamar Jackson at the starting quarterback for that team is a playoff team almost every year that he's healthy. Yeah, and they won't be bad enough unless they move up for picks, which would be insane. From far back down to take a quarterback to replace him. But
so
I don't know if it ever happened, but who knows?
So how did we get here from favorite value, least favorite? Was it on Brad?
It's because Skip took Rondo Moore over Bateman. That's all. I blame Skip for this.
It's all my fault.
Rashad Bateman is. You're a Minnesota fan. Rashad Bateman is gonna shock the league this year, man. He's gonna be on those quick slants. That's what Lamar can throw. Those quick slants. He's gonna be there every day.
He's gonna lead all rookie receivers in targets and catches.
Do I want to go? Yes, I want to go.
Yes, you can go. You can go.
All right,
I'll go last.
The thing I regret looking back, in hindsight being 2020, I should have stuck to my guns at the 103 and not jump for Kelsey. I think I would have liked my team a lot more with Josh Allen and Dak Prescott or Dak Prescott at the 103 and then George Kittle at the 210. I think that, and then Aaron Jones still at the 310, which is how it looks like it would have fallen. I think that, I would probably like a Allen or Prescott, because it would have really been a spur in the moment pick for me. I would really like an Allen or Prescott, Kittle, Aaron Jones start, probably a little bit more than I like a Kelsey, Tom Brady, Aaron Jones start. I think it's just the Tom Brady thing that makes me feel gross, but it makes me feel gross.
It does.
As far as best value goes, I like getting Josh Jacobs in the 5th because I think that he's being massively devalued this year. But I think more than that, I like getting Cortland Sutton in the 7th. I think Cortland Sutton's a guy that really should have gone about a round ahead of that, given the upside that he does have, regardless of who's playing quarterback. I mean, the guy was middle of a breakout, dominant type of receiver. He can be more than just a deep threat. I mean, keep in mind who his quarterback was before Drew Lock. So
Brandon Allen.
Exactly. So he can be a bit more than just a deep threat. I do think he comes back and reclaims that role, pushing Judy to more of a comfortable role, not being the number one, which is a net positive for both of them. But yeah, I really like Courtland Sutton at the 7-10, and I probably would have redone the beginning of my draft because I think I would have liked how it felt better had I just stuck to what I was going to do at the 103.
I feel the same way about that had I taken Allen Robinson instead of Mark Andrews. I took Andrews at the 5-10. I talked myself out of taking who I think is a top 7-8 receiver, just given where I think the Bears offense can leap to when they start Justin Fields week 1. And Robinson being the target hog that he is. And my team would have just overall looked better. Obviously, getting Jamar Chase and DJ Chark to pair up with Allen Robinson would have made my receiving core look a lot more complete. And then not, but I did decide to go with more of the unique variant of having Mark Andrews, who does have decent upside in his own right, but he likely won't get the target volume to truly maximize the benefit of the tight end premium scoring format, which I believe is a full point more per catch and per first down for running backs and receivers. And then I think my best value is a wide receiver that's great in this style and this tournament style is DJ Chark. I got him in the 9th round, wide receiver 35. I know Chenault's more of the sexy name there. Chark with Lawrence and what should be a more up-tempo and I think what's going to come out of nowhere, Jacksonville offense. Chark as a deep threat who has some alpha attributes to him. I think there's a massive upside in him kind of returning to form to what he was in 2019. With as much as I love Minshew, Lawrence is going to help unlock what that Jaguars offense could be. So I'd love getting Chark as my wide receiver 2 when I punted receiver until the 7th round as wide receiver 35. I'll take that risk all day.
Chris, where'd you say you got Sutton at?
7-10.
Damn, in my league, I took Jerry Jeudy at 9-9.
Yeah.
And Sutton went at 10-7.
Damn.
Sutton went, wow.
Well, I decided I wanted Jeudy before him because of the injury.
It don't even matter. I could argue myself into Jeudy over Sutton just given the quarterback change. But the fact that Sutton went 3 rounds after
so
most ADP went for him it's pretty nuts.
You know what? I'll let you guys tell me. I got him right behind. See, the 3 wide receivers right ahead of him were Adam Thielen, Tyler Lockett, Kenny Golladay. More importantly, the ones right behind him were Brandon Ayuk, T. Higgins, Deontay Johnson. And those were the next 3 picks. Chase Claypool, Odell Beckham after that.
My league definitely devalued Sutton because after him went Devonta Smith and Jalen Waddle.
Yeah.
Before him went, Curtis Samuel, Jarvis Landry, LaVisca, Robbie Anderson, and Jerry Jeudy were the receivers before him.
Yeah, so
Samuel went before Jesus. I mean, I love Samuel in that offense, but come on.
Yeah.
So I'll go ahead.
I agree. I couldn't go Sutton and Jeudy. I wasn't going to stack that Broncos offense.
I wouldn't. Now, and I'm comfortable with where I took him because looking at the guys that went immediately behind him, Brandon Ayuk, I get the upside. San Francisco could have a tumultuous situation at quarterback. They're going to be more run-focused as long as it's Jimmy G, and he does have Deebo Samuel and George Kittle to contend for targets with. T. Higgins with the addition of Jamar Chase. Tyler Boyd's still there. They're going to have to throw a bajillion times.
So much.
It's just, how's the target volume going to shake out? Deontay Johnson,
rumor is he's supposed to go into the slot, which
I don't trust.
Absolutely love.
I love it, but I don't trust Pittsburgh. So,
yeah, Chris, it just shows you how every league is different because at the 7-9, I took Brandon Ayuk, And the reason I took Ayuk is because I like Judy over Sutton, so I knew Judy was going to fall. But if I had your mindset, I would have taken Sutton there and then taken a different wide receiver later. So it just shows you the variance of who's in your league and what their mindset is on who's going to go where.
Yeah, it's nuts.
For sure. All right, do we get to everybody?
I stacked Brandon Ayuk and Jimmy Garoppolo, so don't hate.
I got one more
stacked it with
question.
Trey Lance.
What's your one more question?
Yeah, that's a nice one, Skip. One of us is gonna come out a winner in that one, Skip.
Let's hope, because that means good things for Ayuk.
So this is a pro kicker. This is the pro kicker podcast.
It very much is.
And my boy, show friend Josh Larkey put out a thread about anti-kickers in Scott Fishbowl.
We like Josh.
You three, we love Josh. I love Josh. You three, I did not take a kicker, but you three all did.
I took two.
What are your guys' ideas?
So for me,
I'm the kicker in this format because I've been against it even before he put the thread out.
Pretty simple for me. I took Jason Sanders, who was one of the most consistent and most valuable kickers in the league last year. And my thought is this. If you end up in injury trouble, which you very easily could, if you end up in bye week hell, because you shouldn't be paying attention to bye weeks when you draft necessarily, there's going to be times when 12 to 15 points a week from a kicker on, 4 30-ish yard field goals, 30-plus yard field goals is going to play. And the trick to kickers is it's pretty simple. I got an offense that can move the football but sucks in the red zone, or I got an offense that can move the football and I'm going up against a tough defense, and that's when you're going to want to play a kicker. So I took Jason Sanders. The most consistent kicker from last year is not liable to get me negative. That should be good for that 12 to 15 point range on any given week. It's not saying he's always going to hit it, but that's the ceiling. And if you say you're going to get 12 to 15 weeks from your, a week from, I forget, are there 2 or 3 flex slots in this?
3.
3? One's a super flex, right?
I think it's. I thought it was 3 flex and 1 super.
Right.
Flex.
Okay. So
I think
so too. So if I can take my third flex player and almost guarantee myself 12 to 15 points a week, that could be a lot better than me starting a guy like T.Y. Hilton if he doesn't pan out, Nelson Aguilar if that doesn't pan out, Mark Ingram if that doesn't play. Some of those guys that are deeper on my roster that I may have to rely on, there's a strong chance that the kicker is going to be the better play, at least a couple times in the season. So give me one that's consistent late rounds. I mean, I took Jason Sanders after Diami Brown and Phillip Lindsay. And
you guys took. You guys all took your kickers pretty late.
Yeah, I took him round. My first kicker went round 18, and then I took
which
McManus later on because he kicks in Denver. There's a huge upside there. Now, probably should have taken Brian Edwards. That might have helped me feel better about my wide receiver core. But here's the guys that went right before my kicker: Chuba Hubbard in Carolina, Emmanuel Sanders, Diami Brown, Phillip Lindsay. Jason Sanders is going to give me more useful weeks in a flex spot, guaranteed, than any of those fucking guys are. Pardon my French. Yes, that was another curse word. Right behind that, Nico Collins in Houston. Why? Jordan Love. Brian Edwards, like that pick. Mo Alley Cox. So the 6 to 7 guys that immediately surround my kicker, there's one that I like more to give me more useful weeks than that kicker in a flex spot.
Don't hate on the Cox.
There's so many tight ends there.
But yeah, I mean,
I'm with you, Brad. Though he's hyper athletic.
He is. So that was my reason for taking a kicker in the late rounds.
How many weeks do you guys think you'll play your kicker though? This is where my argument lies, and it's that.
Look at my roster real quick.
We expect to get these potential ceilings. It's the -3 to miss field goals. So where you have to hope that your kicker is getting 3 or 4 field goals that game.
It doesn't
and
miss.
Doesn't miss one.
Yeah, that's why I drafted Jason Sanders.
Yes.
I mean, I would have taken Tucker just because of the novelty.
Tucker was gone by then. Tucker was gone by then. So
I wasn't going to take a kicker at all. I would have only taken Tucker.
and
that's a novelty pick.
and let me tell you this: so the way that I'm looking at this, I'm probably starting Travis Kelce, Mike Gesicki. Just throwing it out there. Cortland Sutton, DJ Moore, and then Nelson Aguilar, I guess, would be my third wide receiver.
You have to start 3 receivers.
Yeah. Cortland Sutton, DJ Moore, Nelson Aguilar, or Alan Lazard if he stays consistent.
I mean, yeah.
So Damian Harris, I'm not flexing a wide receiver at all. And then you figure Aaron Jones, Josh Jacobs, Kareem Hunt would sit in a flex. Damian Harris is a question mark.
You have your 2 quarterbacks. So
and then 2 quarterbacks. So that third flex spot, if I were betting how many weeks that would be a kicker, I would say probably 5 to 6 is the floor for the number of weeks I start a kicker,
so in best ball,
given injuries and bye weeks.
But how many weeks would you be confident in playing a kicker over potential upside with some of these other players? And that's where I lean on, right?
What's on the waiver wire, right? Because you draft kickers who are hardly ever hurt. But let's say that we go out there and Kareem Hunt, a guy that I'm relying on to be my third flex spot and get me 12 to 15 points a week, rips an ACL. Well, then what? I move Damian Harris in, but then I have a flex spot that's open, and is that kicker going to outperform most of the scrub I can pick up off the waiver wire? Yeah, probably. You're gonna have people sitting on your bench. You're not starting everyone. You might as well make it something you can plug in and be useful.
No. I get where the kicker argument comes from and why you take them, and where the value can lie in. So basically, it's
an insurance policy that's better than the other insurance policies that are out there.
I also expect a lot of kickers to be dropped very early on, and that kicker pool to basically be what it is.
Well, if not, I got one with a giant leg and high upside that can win me a week or two, and I got one that's uber consistent. So,
yeah.
I'll tell you my thought process on the kicker. But Skip, did you take a kicker?
Yeah, I grabbed Harrison Butker in the it was like the 16th round. We only had 9 kickers drafted, so I was thinking about that when you were talking, Dan. And really, there's your best argument for not drafting one is that like a lot of leagues that have kickers, you can basically pick one up at any time and put one into your lineup if you absolutely have to.
And that's what I think will end up happening. Is that people will recognize or they'll play a kicker, and then that's the 1 week he goes Mason Crosby on it and goes 1 for 5.
Or he goes
with like -10.
Or he goes big dick Nick Novak and kicks you through the playoffs.
And he kicks you. I pray to see a kicker on
the
winning roster in the final
happen.
week. I want it to happen just for the lulz. It won't, but I want it to happen.
Dan, can I tell you my strategy for a kicker?
Yes. You can, Brad. Yes, you can.
And I'm with you because I didn't read Larky's article or whatever you said he did. But I was on Twitter and I was seeing people saying they were drafting kickers, and I'm like, can we cuss on this show?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck.
I mean, the only person that said anything about it was somebody in your chat, and I think it was ironically. So
it was totally ironically, I think.
I'm like, why the fuck are people drafting these kickers? Because when you're in a tournament like this, you want ceiling plays. You don't want 15 points. You don't want 17 points. But with that argument, everybody's draft strategy is different. If somebody went into a league and drafted 2 quarterbacks early, planning for their super flex, they should not be drafted a kicker. They should just be drafted high ceiling plays.
Yep.
But a person like me who went 0 quarterbacks and I might not even have a super flex,
that's
right? In the 19th round, the 3 picks away from our draft being over with, I took Rodrigo for the Colts.
Rodrigo Blankenship.
Yes.
Oh.
And the reason I did that is because, one, when I look at kickers, if you're in a kicker league, you look for favorable weather down the stretch, right? You look for either Florida, California. You look for domes. Last year, I think Blankenship was the 7th best kicker in this scoring format, but he was only 3 points from like number 3. So now that they've got wins, there's potential for them to score more. And I put a tweet out. This is Blankenship's final schedule. It starts in week 12. He kicks at home in a dome. Week 13, he goes on the road in a dome, which I think is Detroit or Houston. Then he has a bye week. Then he's at home in a dome. Then he plays away in a dome. Then he plays at home in a dome. And then week 18, he plays at Florida. So there's a small chance, in my opinion, that he's going to miss a field goal in a dome in conditioned weather. Right. So at round 19, I'm like, I'll take 15 points. I'll take 17 points because I might only have one quarterback that I could start that week. That was my strategy for taking a kick.
I want you to say dome one more time for me, Brad. Dome.
And you talk about ceiling, right? Pardon me for taking the ceiling of Brandon McManus, who's a ceiling pick for a kicker, over the likes of, I don't know. I am going to drag some people now. Richie James, DJ Dallas.
Wait. Richie James and DJ Dallas were drafted?
They were. 22nd round. Same round I took McManus in.
That's a good time to take a kicker.
Something called Jacob Harris in Atlanta. Pat Fryermuth. I mean...
Hey, no. Jacob Harris. He's going to be good.
In redraft?
Maybe not this year, but he's going to be good.
In redraft.
He'll be dropped. He'll be dropped, too.
Right.
Let's see.
Richie fucking James, man.
My first kicker went over such esteemed names. By the way, I got Kadarius Toney in the 19th round. I forgot about that. My first kicker went over ceiling of the likes of Jordan Love.
Yeah, that's gross.
Dwayne Eskridge this year. Keep in mind this year.
Yeah.
Actually, there are some other guys that have a lot higher ceiling, though. I'm really cherry picking at this point because it's like
I know you said De'Ami Brown and some other.
Yeah, De'Ami Brown went right before him, but I mean, like, I mean, I'm looking behind that, and I'm like, there's Darius Slayton, Amari Rogers,
and that's been the whole argument
Michelle.
As to why it's not about what they'll do for you week one. It's if.
But you know me, I'm a floor drafter. You know me, I'm a floor drafter.
And you're massively you're massively pro kicker. It's only on brand for you to take kicker.
I'm pretty risk averse too, so I mean
you are, yeah.
Dan, I'll give you some picks after I took Blankenship in round 19.
Okay.
So the Saints kicker went, which it's not the Drew Brees Saints, so you don't know how that's going to work out. Malcolm Brown, which I guess that could be a breakout player.
No.
DJ Uzoma coming off an ACL tear. Dan Arnold, someone you mentioned.
Dan Arnold.
Hey, you don't hate on Dan Arnold.
I'm not hating, but we're talking about kickers who possibly could get 15 to 17
Every
points a
time
week.
Dan Arnold was hated on this show, he freaking went off.
Yeah, the last time that someone shit on Dan Arnold, that man the next Sunday went off for 20 points.
It was
Keystone
that Sunday. Hey, whoa. Actually fair this year, though.
I
mean, when you're taking kickers late, if you're going to take a kicker around 15, 14, that might be questionable. But when you're into your draft, your ceiling's only so high, right? You gotta get 1 in a million to get that guy who's going to score more than 17 a week.
And I like having a little bit of floor on my bench. That's always been part of my game. You know that, Dan.
I know. That's why I want to ask this question, because when Josh made that thread, it blew up. And I want to hear people's thoughts. I want to hear actual people's thoughts on kicker.
Hey, Skip, what's your thoughts?
Hey, guys, Skip's on this show today, too. Hey, Skip, how's it going?
There's going to be weeks when that kicker floor is going to look pretty damn good. I mean, hell, I just submitted my lineup for week 1, and I'm looking at Jared Goff playing against San Francisco. No thanks. Last year, he played San Francisco twice. He scored, in this scoring system, almost 8 points. Or wait, I'm on the wrong.
And
almost 8
Detroit's
points.
Detroit's kicker might actually be good this year. an offense that's got a good offensive line, a decent running game, but we know, God knows, won't have the passing offense to push scoring, but just good enough to kick a lot of field goals. And they're in a dome.
But yeah, the point that I was going to make is that, these quarterbacks with bad matchups, you got to be really careful. I mean, he scored, like I said, less than 8 points the first time he played the 49ers. The second time, -5.5.
And this is a very Scott has found the perfect way to balance quarterback. Like, he's found a way to balance quarterback scoring, which
it punishes,
which is the reason why which is the reason why I went 2 quarterbacks my first 3 rounds. My plan was the first, a 2 in the first 5 rounds, just ended up being, a 2 in the first 3. So I want the advantage of having a potential high scoring super flex. Sure. I feel like in the scoring format, it's a big advantage.
Hey, Dan.
Excuse me.
Dan.
Brad.
I want you to project some points for me in a kicker-friendly league that can hit some field goals. All right. The Colts are at home against the Bucks.
In a dome.
That should be high scoring, right?
In a dome.
Yeah.
Then they go to Houston and they play in a dome. Right?
Right.
Then they go home and they play the Patriots in a dome. Then they go to Arizona, which is going to be high scoring in a dome. Then they come home and they play the Raiders this could be high scoring, or you never know.
Hold on, wait. What if the roof's open?
It's still.
Well, then it's good. It's good weather.
It's only open if it's good weather.
Yes,
absolutely.
So it's controlled conditions. I mean, when you're talking about the end of the draft and somebody that could have a high ceiling, I mean, those are the type of players ceiling is just as high as. Would you say Philip Lindsay, Chris? Who are you mentioning? CJ Uzoma.
Uzama, yeah.
Who's going to draft?
Someone drafted CJ Uzama?
Yeah, in both leagues.
Lindsay will at least, at some point, be the starting running back for Houston.
So will everyone.
I think he will.
You'll at some point be the starting running back for Houston.
I will be the starting quarterback at some point for Houston.
No, we got news on that if we ever get to the RotoWorld segment.
I'm sorry, but we went on.
Hey, don't we ever
on a kicker tangent?
We did just spend 20 minutes on kickers.
Hey, kickers matter. Show me. Kickers matter.
We're all drinking bourbon and some beers, so it's only fitting on a Beer Fueled podcast episode that we
just spent the majority of this episode on Sam Darnold and kickers.
On a kicker tangent and a Sam Darnold in lieu of Brian Hoyer from episode 5 tangent from way back in the day. Remember that one?
I wish Nick was here to enjoy the fact that we spent 45 minutes of an hour and a half episode on Sam Darnold and kickers.
All right, let's go to read Beer Fueled news.
No, let's do a beer review.
Okay, that works too.
Are you gonna start?
I thought you were gonna play the drop.
Beer review.
It's bourbon time, baby. It's bourbon time.
It is.
I was actually, that's why we got to review the beer, because this bourbon's flowing nice. I'll review it too.
All right. I drank Revolution Strawberry Straight Jacket. Straight Jacket is their barrel-aged barley wine program. This year, for their variant, they did strawberries in it. This is sweet, very, very, very subtle tart. With the light, more of a not so much, fuller taste of their barley wine. It's sweet. It's somehow refreshing for a 14.2% beer. This will kick your ass. And then I'm pairing that with was it Elk? Old Elk's wheated bourbon, which is, as I always say, it's got notes of vanilla and toffee and toasted caramel, because it's a wheated bourbon. Who wants to do next? Who wants to go next? Skip. You haven't talked nearly as much as the three of us. Why don't you give yourselves a fine bourbon review?
We've got again the Elijah Craig small batch. It is a 94 proof rye bourbon. It's I think it's a smooth on the palate, but on the nose, you can definitely, the caramel and oak would really pop out. It's got a whole kind of a roundness on the mouth. It's not in the front, it's not in the back, just kind of all around the mouth. For me, and there's none of that burn going down. It's just an easy sipping bourbon for me.
Love it. Brad, what are your thoughts?
Well, first, I want to tell Skip, I love that you love bourbon. That gets me so excited. I would be honored.
Skip joined the league. Has Skip joined the league yet?
I would be honored if Skip would join our Bourbon Bowl League. Skip, hit me up on Twitter at RotoLounge. We will get you into that league. You can draft your kickers, whoever you want to draft. But as long as you're drinking bourbon, I definitely want to have you. It would be a great addition. But you motherfuckers had me drinking. I had 3 glasses of this.
Well, don't blame us for your.
You can blame me. That's okay.
Choice. We just
I'm okay with it. I told you I'm a bad influence.
1,000%. I'm 1,000% okay with it.
Well, IPA.
So
it's a hop that just says IPA.
Last week, I actually had a Patreon reach out to me. Who, Chris, you might like this. He had a bottle of the Donahoe Bookers.
Okay.
And, we talk back and forth, and he's like, I kind of want to trade. I want to trade. So I drove out to Kentucky. I traded a bottle of E.H. Taylor and Weller Reserve for a Donahoe. And we met at this place in Kentucky called Goodwood Brewing. And they brew their own beer.
Hey, Dan, we're
and
going
they had
there,
this
by the way.
IPA. And they also sold it in the can. So I said, give me a 6-pack. So that's what I've transitioned to that, because after 3 glasses of whiskey, I don't want to get shit-faced like I did the last time.
You're probably getting there already.
Goodwood's on the agenda.
3 glasses deep, about 1 IPA deep, and who knows what's next.
Dan,
I'll drink as long as you guys will have me, but IPAs, bourbon barrel ales, bourbon, I love it all. It's all good.
I either got some Goodwood when I was in Kentucky, or it's one of the things that's on the agenda for Dan's bachelor party, and I can't remember.
We're probably going to
which.
end up. Is it near where we're going?
It's near where we're going one of those 2 weekends in August. Remember, you're going to spend like 19 days with me in August or something.
I'm the only one besides your wife, and maybe even more so than your wife, that can tolerate you for
that long,
for more than 2 weeks at a time.
Right.
Somehow, some way, we find a way to tolerate each other for 2 weeks.
Are you guys going to be in Kentucky?
We're going to be in Louisville for his bachelor party, and then we're going to be in Ohio the following weekend for the Midwest FFX, or for the FF Expo.
That's in Canada?
Yep. That'll be the 2nd week of August.
Yep.
Kentucky is probably a closer drive for me, so I'd love to join you for a drink if you're free. Hit me up.
Yeah. We will talk off air. Let's get something set up.
We'll be
buddy.
down there.
And
yeah,
Skip,
absolutely.
And Skip, buddy, if you want to make the trip, man.
Can't make that one, although I'm still trying to decide if I can get to the
speaking of bachelor parties, wasn't there supposed to be a live appearance from a bachelor party that I totally made up?
I know. Well, I think Matt was actually telling the truth. I just hope he was going to show up somehow.
So anyway, we'll start with the good stuff. Actually, it's both good stuff. But I had Chocolate Stark from Petrichor Brewing. Again, Petrichor in O'Fallon, Missouri, 5.2%. Exactly what you'd expect. It's a sweet stout with a very, very strong chocolate note. It starts out with kind of that sugary sweetness on the lips, rolls into a nice chocolate, nice roasty body, helps to balance out the fact that it is super sweet, and it finishes like just a traditional, really, really good stout. It's a good beer. As far as this Four Roses goes, OESK is bold. It claims to be spicy, and it very much is. If you like sweet and spice, this is definitely the way to go for you. There's a ton of rye spice that comes forward in this, as it is a higher rye recipe. But there's a ton of rye spice that comes forward in this, a ton of black pepper. It tickles your nose when you smell it, and it really jumps out at the forefront. But there is a nice like butterscotch and caramel on the back end that really helps to balance that out. It's a very, very long, sweet finish on this guy. So overall, great balance. It's really bold up front, but the sweetness is a nice counteract for those Four Roses.
I'd love to try some of that Four Roses. I never got into Four Roses, but some of the older stuff I heard is just amazing.
If you ever get the chance to pick up a barrel strength single barrel, doesn't matter what recipe it is, just do it. I've got Total Wine pick. I got one down there from Elixir, and I've got a Brent Elliott Master Distiller pick sitting over there. All incredible. And I'd actually finished one from maybe Benny's, maybe Roof Brothers. I don't remember where. Not that long ago.
Brothers. What's Roof Brothers?
Roof Brothers is a place in Paducah, Kentucky.
Okay.
So, all right, Beer Fueled Reads World at RotoWorld. So for you two, this is basically where we find things that are either newsworthy to talk about or things to make fun of as we just read through the RotoWorld headlines. It's especially hilarious during like training camp when all the coach hype is going on and stuff. It's not the case here, but we're going to go for it.
Sports Edge, for those of you that are wondering what the fuck happened to RotoWorld.
It's RotoWorld.
Yeah.
Tom Brady played through a partially torn MCL for the entirety of the 2020 season. That's not the best thing on the front page, though. Adam Schefter believes there is no team better positioned to trade for Deshaun Watson than Philadelphia. So we've just forgotten about all of the allegations, and we're back to Deshaun Watson trade rumors, which is good if you drafted Deshaun Watson in the between the 7th and 10th round in Scott Fishbowl. But yeah, the next thing we heard on Deshaun Watson, I did not expect to be more trade rumors from Schefter.
Dude, me and all my Jalen Hurts shares would be very, very sad. Very sad if
I was hoping to get Watson late draft with no quarterback strategy because someone sniped me on him super early. So.
There's a lot of people that would be very, very sad with how early they took Jalen Hurts if Deshaun Watson gets traded there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Me.
Dwayne Haskins was apparently punched in the mouth by his wife. His wife is facing domestic battery charges. He had a missing tooth, split upper lip. Injuries were described as substantial in nature. Steelers had no comment, though, and then RotoWorld goes on to say, it's unclear if any of this will force the 24-year-old to miss time in camp. So I'm hoping they're referring to an injury, because I find it really weird if you're speculating on a guy getting the shit beat out of him to have any form of legal or league discipline held against him because he got beat up.
Yeah, it's also pretty sickening to how many people are making fun of Dwayne Haskins
like
in this type of scenario. Like it's like domestic violence is bad regardless of the gender.
And I don't like Dwayne Haskins, but fight or flight, your natural human response, think of the control it took for him to not react to the fact that was happening, because if he did, being the guy in that scenario, he's totally fucked.
Yeah. And like he already has a bad rap, short leashes.
Yeah.
Like
he deserves a lot of credit for just getting the shit beat out of him, honestly. That's a hard thing to do.
I don't know how many of you guys are married, but there's no better sign that you picked the right woman than going to Vegas to celebrate your wedding and she knocks her fucking tooth out.
My wife's a dentist, so she would just pull it out.
Having a good woman is like it's so good for life, and then you pick one and she fucking beat your ass.
And my teeth are fake.
On
Go
your
for
wedding
it.
day too, or close to your wedding day. It's sad that people are making jokes about him, getting beat up by a woman, and that are going out of their way to question him as a man and shit like that. It's domestic violence, regardless of gender. It just shows the double standard of just how we view it, and as Hopper alluded to, had this been switched,
even if he retaliated,
his fiance, we'd be talking. This would be completely different.
Even if he didn't do anything until after he got his tooth knocked out and his lip split, it would still be seen completely differently.
Yeah, exactly. So, kudos to him for for remaining calm. I won't say calm, but for restraining from from making this more on him than
Yeah.
his fiance.
It's one of the rare situations where it's not more on the player. Let's see. So, keeping it moving. Richard Sherman situation.
Yikes.
Yeah. So
It keeps getting worse.
this was a roller coaster, man. It first was reported as his ex-wife. She said, "Tell the truth, we're still married." So now it's being reported as his wife. He got drunk, crashed his car into a median, not something else. Decided to go to his in-laws' house. Was trying to break into that. They called the cops, and he gets a canine turned loose on him. He was released this morning from jail with just 4 misdemeanor charges, though. So it sounds like probably not a lot going to come out of that because there were 4 misdemeanors. No felonies.
I think he'll still find a home. I'll be surprised to see how the NFL, I guess, decides to intervene with this, if there's any suspension given to him.
Jordan Matthews is going to work out as a tight end. He's not going to be the next Darren Waller.
No.
Good. We're all in agreement.
I can't believe he
let's
put on
see.
that many pounds, though.
Yeah, 30. Let's see. A couple not expected to agree to long-term extensions. So Allen Robinson, Chris Godwin not expected to agree to long-term extensions. So you're going to have good wide receiver free agent class next year.
What are your thoughts on those guys in Dynasty, given the uncertainty of their next homes? Potentially their next homes.
I like Godwin more than Robinson, which is just kind of a blanket statement for me anyway.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I think that,
I figured that.
I think that, you look at the fact that they brought Antonio Brown back in. You have Gronk, you have O.J. Howard, and Mike Evans there. It's hard for Godwin to land in a situation where there's more competition for targets than what there currently is in Tampa Bay. So, if he were to leave. Now, the flip side of that is they don't sign Antonio Brown back. All of a sudden, it looks a lot better for him to stay in Tampa. Maybe they get something done in the offseason. For Robinson, they just brought in Fields. So, depending on how the season goes, maybe there's a chance they re-sign him. If not, really going to depend on where he lands and just the age variance and, the fact that I like Godwin's profile a bit more. I'm more intrigued. I think Godwin's a little bit more bulletproof based on landing spot than what Robinson is.
And Robinson's proved to basically do it with any style of quarterback. I hope Robinson stays in Chicago, just given how I feel about Justin Fields. And then how, even though I do expect Nagy and Pace to somehow keep their job, because I expect Fields to be the starter from week 1 and to potentially take them to the playoffs.
Go ahead.
Brad Skip, how do you feel about these? About this? I think this is an important dynasty question to ask.
I like Godwin just a little better in general, for all the reasons you guys said, that the age matters. But Allen Robinson, I mean, he's proven to be a good wide receiver with a lot going against him. So I feel pretty good that if he were to leave, a team that's going to sign him is going to sign him as their number 1. So he's probably going to be in a good situation. I mean, it's always a risk when a player leaves and goes to another roster. You're never sure, is it going to work out? But he's already proven that he can do it. So I think he could do it again. It'd be like Brandon Cooks, right? Brandon Cooks is good no matter where he goes. But no one seems to give him credit. But I
give Brandon Cooks a lot of credit, but he's up against a bigger stack than anything this year. And Allen Robinson at least started his career with an amazing quarterback.
Oh boy,
we are pro. Well, Hopper's a pro Blake Bortles. We love Blake Bortles. We've full on crafted narratives for Hopper about Blake Bortles. So
it's true.
Can't wait till he's starting in Green Bay.
Me either.
I mean, he is the best quarterback there, right?
Right now.
Yeah.
Right now, that's right.
Josina Anderson reports disgruntled Patriots wide receiver N'Keal Harry is planning to attend training camp. Well, no shit. You talk about a guy that has no leg to stand on when demanding a trade. It's N'Keal Harry. He's going to get his ass cut is what's going to happen.
I saw rumors that the Chiefs were interested in him.
Okay, great. You can watch his draft stock go up because he's on the Chiefs.
And then you can trade him.
Terrible.
That's the greatest
He'll
thing.
At least
you
have
can
trade
move on
value
from a
if you
wide
drafted
receiver
him.
who's got
That's true.
no worth ethic to the highest scoring offense in football. Fucking ship that and move him on for hopefully a second. That'd be pumped.
Absolutely.
Let's go. Make it happen.
Keeping it going, CJ Uzama, 50 receptions, realistic this season. In that offense.
I mean, they're going to throw the ball 700 fucking times.
They're not going to force targets to any one wide receiver, though. Those are back-to-back notes, by the way. Uzama and not forcing targets to any one person. Saquon Barkley, this is actually notable. Doesn't have a timetable for his return. Unclear if he'll start on the PUP after not attending OTAs. So, I mean, you hear these guys
Have you seen his quads?
Yeah.
Have you guys seen that picture? That fucker's playing week 1.
Doesn't mean his knee's good.
Right. Yeah, it's not.
You never seen his quad, so it's like fucking tree trunks. On tree trunks.
Doesn't do anything for a knee.
I know, but still.
If he's missing time in camp, then I'll be officially concerned. Until then,
yeah, it's just a little different than, and it's a running back, so I mean he's got to cut more. But it's just different than what you've heard out of, especially early season ACL injuries the last couple of years. The guys like Sutton and Kupp, in the wide receiver position, where.
Do you think it could be like Dalvin Cook when he came back from his ACL tear? He came on too soon.
Could be.
Obviously hurt his hamstring because he put too much. Like he hurt his opposite leg hamstring because of he put too much
on it,
emphasis on the other leg. So
you want him to be right. So maybe they're just taking it slow with him. There's that one Hurts news.
Devontae
Booker, Elijah Penny. Wow, that's a name. Corey Clement. He's still alive.
There you go.
Corey Clement is still alive.
More than we can say about Shane.
Oh, I talked to Shane. He was too busy to be to jump on.
I'm still going. I got like 2 weeks worth of shit to get to. Devin Singletary showed up to last month's mandatory minicamp looking stronger and feeling faster. Well, that's good. I would hate it if my team came out. He looks fatter and slower.
So he's not.
They didn't even say that about Eddie Lacy.
No. He's not Eddie Lacy. Good.
Here's one for you. Tom Curran would put his cash on Jacoby Myers being the most reliable and productive Patriots wideout. Yeah, that's in the realm of possibility for me. I love me some Jacoby Myers. But, a lot of people are expecting it to be Nelson Aguilar, and I'm leaning that way. But, I mean, Jacoby Myers is talented, and he had some really good flashes last year. Like, I would not be surprised if you told me end of the year that Jacoby Myers ended up being the number 1 receiver on the Patriots.
He has yet to score a touchdown. If he can take the wide receiver 2 spot from Kendrick Bourne, because I think Bourne has that spot right now, just given his contract, I think Myers will be the sneaky add to your redraft leagues. And then if he's on the waiver wires in Dynasty, you should pick him up too.
Tariq Cohen dealt with knee stiffness during last month's OTAs. Another guy coming back from a torn ACL.
Yeah.
The Athletics' Vic Taffer believes Henry Ruggs is the one receiver we can lock in for a lot of targets.
No.
No.
The Raiders misused him last year. They'll likely misuse him this year.
Oh, you ready for this fantasy hype?
I see it now.
Get on
I'm watching with you.
Adam Humphries, around 60 targets this year. Run out and draft him.
We're in the heart of offseason when we're hyping up 60 target
Adam
receivers.
Humphries, 60 targets. Go get him. Go get him, boys.
Hey, guys, he might be a wide receiver 6. It's all right. Make sure you go out and draft him, though.
This is why all the NFL personnel go on vacation in July.
No shit.
Because nothing's happening.
Nothing's going on, yeah. Like, Mark Ingram could be a cut for the Houston Texans. Matt Breida could be a cut for the Buffalo Bills. No shit.
I forgot Breida's with Buffalo. God, if he stays healthy, he might be the best back in Buffalo.
He could be. Benny Snell, cut candidate for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
You guys realize that Kalen Ballage is in Pittsburgh now.
Oh, God.
If anything happens to Najee Harris, Kalen Ballage might be the best running back on that roster.
Lord help us all.
Sad but true.
With the worst offensive line in the league, like Kalen Blodge,
Like,
who can't see for his shit.
hey, did you know Mecole Hardman's going to be the Chiefs wide receiver too?
Great. I can't wait for his 80 targets and like 46 catches.
I'm all the way back to the July 6th now. Like, that's how this is going.
So you missed the fact that the Giants might bring Kadarius 20 on slowly.
I skipped it. I didn't care.
His best season might be his rookie season. That's about how much he's good with. He's good for.
49ers want to run the ball 500 times in 2021. I mean, that's not an absurd amount. I mean, Seattle's had some seasons where they've been at 550, 560, so.
I mean, they have enough running backs on that roster that can probably.
They
cover
do.
that.
I mean, that's just good news for draft to San Francisco. But hell, Wayne Gallman was looking attractive to me in San Francisco.
Nuts.
Last guy in the bar. Wait, last girl in the bar. Shit.
There you go.
We gotta go.
There you go. We've gone on too far.
Okay, bye.
This is what happens when we all drink bourbon and then go on rants about Sam Darnold.
I'm at Beer Fueled Hop. He's
Oh,
at Beer Fueled
We're
30.
gonna talk about Sam Darnold again?
No, Brad. No, we're not. No,
Well,
we're
we
not.
woke up Brad.
Brad's awake, guys. He's here, so.
At RotoLounge. Brad, one more time, where can people find you? Where can we find your stuff? What the hell are you doing?
Just if you wanna find me, just look on Twitter at RotoLounge, and then you can find podcasts, all the other stuff there.
And if you love bourbon and you love fantasy football, go check out its Patreon.
Yeah. And after Skip, we got 2 more spots for Bourbon Bowl.
That's right.
How do people
Hit
join?
me up on DM. Let's get it settled so we can start rolling out the draft.
You
do
can
it.
expect one, man.
Skip, where can the people
Skip,
find you?
one more time.
At Skip Newton 31 on Twitter, co-host Devy Happy Hour, and also on the Devy team for NFL Draft Bible on SportsIllustrated.com.
Okay, bye. By the way, programming note, we will not be here next week.
No.
We're a weekly show, but we will not be here next week. Dan had work get in the way on our normal recording day. I can't go the day that he's free. So it's going to take a week off to tend to some other things. We'll be back the following week. So
Be a lot of partying next week.
yeah, there's going to be a lot. Well, and that's what
a lot of drinking.
that's kind of what mine is too. So
Yeah. Lots of drinking.
a lot of
for us
stuff
next
going
week.
on next week. So unfortunately, this isn't our day job. So life.
If you guys want for 30 minutes, I can take over and talk about Sam Darnold and Cortland Sutton and everything that the people want to hear
Throw
about.
Drew Lock in there. I might just give you the keys.
I really hope we
I can
get.
talk about Locke for 5 minutes.
I want a 25-minute plus breakdown on kickers, though. Okay.
Oh, hey,
I need 25
that's
minutes.
in my
on-
wheelhouse.
Eh,
That's in my
right there.
wheelhouse.
Right there. All right, guys. That's it. Bye.
See you guys.
Beer Fueled.
All I know is I feel much better than I did last time. But I have not stood up yet. I haven't stood up yet, so that could change things once I stand up.